How common are these ADHD comorbidities?
I would say about 70% of population is about 2.5% at this point.
What are the most common comorbidities with ADHD?
Either anxiety or depression, largely.
And why do these guys use this fidget spinner?
See, they have a lot of stress inside, right? Another thought. It's like a machine, virtual machine, like.
When we talk about this depression and ADHD, like, do you think they both interact?
Inattentive ADHD and depression in my peer group is very. So that's how depression happens.
How should we treat comorbid ADHD and depression?
If you use the word comorbid itself, you know that there is.
So folks, this is part 3 of the TGV Mental Wellness series, where we are discussing some of the less spoken but important topics related to mental health, ADHD, anxiety, depression, and comorbidities with Dr. Sharada Rao. She is a top corporate leader, an author, and an effective altruist in progress. And Dr. Sharada has been a blogger regularly on mental health issues, especially on LinkedIn. And here is an early disclaimer to all the audience. We aim to increase the awareness and no offense meant to anyone globally. And this is to share empathy on how to overcome these conditions like ADHD, and hope this series helps make a difference to many people's lives. In fact, there are about 970 million plus people who are going through some form or the other of the mental health issues. And this is our small effort, like a tiny drop in an ocean, with just one aim, that is to improve the awareness to silent people who experience mental health challenges alone. And today, as part of this TGV mental health or mental wellness series, we are going to cover the topic number 3. What is combined ADHD? And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, as part of this series, we have covered ADHD, what it is, in part 1, and inattentive ADHD in part 2. This is our part 3, which is about combined ADHD. And before we get started with the topic, let me welcome you all. So folks, you have tuned into TGV, and hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, where we embark on transformative conversations for a better future. And we want to simplify and amplify your journey to success. I'm your host, Naveen Samala, dedicated to making the world a better place by bringing you the wisdom through valuable discussions with experts designed to simplify and amplify your success. And thank you so much for tuning in. And Dr. Sharada Rao, welcome back to TGV. We have received a lot of positive feedback on episode 1, ADHD, what is it? And episode number 2, inattentive ADHD of this mental wellness series. And excited to talk to you about topic number 3 today, about combined ADHD. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Naveen, for having me again. I'm glad to hear that the feedback is good. I would again like to start, in case you didn't know earlier or didn't watch the earlier episodes. Hashtag being vulnerable. I have been diagnosed with adult ADHD recently, and it all finally made sense to me in terms of why I was having a whole huge issues both at work and at home and in life. So this is me being vulnerable. I've worn the shoes. I would like you to first recognize that there is no shame in acknowledging it to yourself, and also there is no this is to not have any stigma. Like, let's break the stigmas. I think I will begin with that. So let's go to talk about combined ADHD. So over to you, Naveen. What would you like to know?
Yeah, sure. And first of all, as I mentioned in the last 2 episodes also, again, it takes a lot of courage to admit certain facts and all. And I really appreciate and salute you for that. And with that, let's get into our conversation today. So, my first question is about how common are these ADHD comorbidities?
Hmm. So, yeah, there are definitely, I would say, about 70% of the statistic you stated have combined ADHD in some form or the other. I will mention four of them. So, the hyperactive ADHD folks, they would have anxiety, and the inattentive ADHD folks might have depression. There could be hyperactivity with anxiety, with inattention, and there could be inattention with depression or anxiety, or all of the above. So these are the ways in which you learn to kind of navigate. There is definitely, it's a vicious cycle. One leads to other, and then it becomes cyclical. And ADHD frequently associated with comorbid psychiatric disorders that complicate first to recognize it or diagnose it. But today, with a lot of advancements in medicine, it's much better and easier. Most frequent comorbid psychopathologies, they include mood and anxiety disorders, substance use disorders, and personality disorders. And I'm again carefully mentioning hashtag disclaimer. The word disorder is to say that there is dis-ease that you're having within yourself. It is not a put down or anything of that sort. So coming from a person again like me. In fact, the prevalence of ADHD in general adult population is about 2.5% at this point, which is like, if you looked at the world's population, it runs into huge millions. It's associated with substantial personal and individual burden.
Yeah, 2.5% seems to be a higher number. And also, if
Yeah.
we calculate this 970 million out of 8 billion, right, that is whopping. And I'm really worried about
Yeah.
this, right? And probably people are not coming out. Maybe they're not
Yeah.
recognizing that they're going through
Yes,
this, right?
this is the whole purpose of this series, that people come out at least to themselves. They need to
Right.
acknowledge. It's not a, it's like a headache or it's like any other physical thing that you might have. Please recognize it and be comfortable in acknowledging it first. And then you can move forward with, a form of treatment. So that
Yeah.
is the whole purpose and idea behind me being vulnerable here and going ahead with Naveen.
Yeah. Got it. And what are the most common comorbidities with ADHD? Let's double click on that.
Okay. So ADHD often it coexists, like I said, with either anxiety or depression largely, but sometimes it could also, connect with autism spectrum, right? So there's a generalized anxiety. I will talk about one each of them for a few minutes. So generalized anxiety disorder known as GAD, where individuals with ADHD will experience excessive worry and anxiety that can exacerbate attention difficulties. So because they spend a lot of time, it's called the overthink syndrome, right? Where they are like thinking something and then they are pathologizing it, and it's leading to extreme stress. And so the ADHD wakes up then, right? So then, inattention, it can manifest as inattention, where they're completely zoning out because of the too much overload, or it can manifest as anxiety, where they are like calling different people and finding out, are you okay? Or they're looking around and saying, am I okay? So that is generalized anxiety. It can start mildly, but it can take a form of its own. This is one way it manifests. Inattentive ADHD people, like I stated in my earlier episode, they have a lot of difficulty in running a normal day. So, and this is not to say that they are not intelligent. Some of them are super intelligent, and we will talk about that also. They are born gifted, but they develop depressive symptoms due to challenges that they face in managing their symptoms, or in feelings of inadequacy they have, or low self-esteem, right? Overall leading to frustration with themselves because they're not able to meet their task list. and they work very hard at themselves. And despite that, if they are not able to meet their task list, they start the self talk, and they are like, the esteem starts to take a beating. And so then that leads to, I need to shut out everything, and now I'm just going to bed. And this is a cycle which where the ADHD symptoms, they worsen depression and vice versa. So it's a I would call it a negative spiral.
Mm-hmm.
That is how ADHD coexists with depression. It's very, very difficult. All my hugs and sympathy, empathy to people who face this. Um, in my peer community, there are many who reach out, and I reach out to them as well for support. And it's a very, very difficult experience. However, it can be surmounted. We can stand up. That's what I would say. And then there is bipolar disorder, right? Bipolar disorder is where, the easiest way to put it is mood swings, where they are both depressive and happily, really happy, right? And medically, it's called a manic episode. And in a manic episode, they're highly productive. They get into a fixation mode, and at work they are like hyper productive, so they are like in the zone, like we would say. Or there are days where they are unable to work at all. So the mood swing it's a spectrum. On certain day, on most days they are balanced. So if you have 20 days in the month where you're really balanced or able out to, your output is good for the day, at work or doing your duties at home, I would call it a win, right? It's a
Yeah.
big win. And so it can be challenging both in children. It manifests usually in adults because of the hormonal changes, the physiology changes. So these are the things for how ADHD manifests with bipolar. And then there is the autism spectrum. The autism spectrum is where they are diagnosed much earlier, because autism manifests during childhood itself,
Mm.
fundamentally with motor skills, or the eyes. And that they don't meet have eye contact, or the eyes are like moving to the side. So there are many ways today in which parents are able to notice, or they're just able to recognize that this is not normal, and they would then go to their physician.
Yeah.
So typically the autism spectrum disorder coexists with ADHD as they grow up into adults. And this comorbidity can complicate social interactions largely. So they can live normally with familiar and recognizable people.
Right.
So it has to be tailored. A social intervention or an interaction should be tailored, actually, such that it doesn't disturb the person. And there are ways to manage it. There's another. Since we talked about social, I want to talk about antisocial personality
Right.
disorder as well, where
Mm-hmm.
individuals with ADHD will completely, it's called ASPD, and they don't want to talk with anybody, right? Behavioral issues are there. They're not effectively managed during childhood and adolescence, so they have gone unrecognized. And so they get hyper impulsive on certain days. And they're like doing happy things, right? Like retail therapy, or
Okay.
just sitting and continuously watching, browsing, all of these, right? Today that's how it manifests. But yeah, there are swings where they're manic,
Mm-hmm.
and they get they don't any interaction. They are very happy being themselves, and they're doing these swings, right? That is one. And then there is also the BPD, which is the borderline personality disorder, which is
Mm-hmm.
very common in adults. And BPD is where it can co-occur with ADHD and unrecognized ADHD, which
Right.
means that the individual will struggle with emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned about this earlier as well, right? Where
Yeah.
they get highly sensitive, and emotionally unstable. So then they are fidgeting, or they want to leave an environment, or they kind of at work they are like completely in a zone. They have their desk, and they're very happy there, right? So there are many ways. I'm just I'm not, I can't encompass the huge spectrum that
Correct.
the comorbidities are. But in short, I would say these are the ways in which the combinations manifest.
Oh my God. And I think in one of the Telugu movies, if I remember, there was a fidget spinner that made very popular, right? And why do these guys use this fidget spinner?
Um, See, they have a lot of stress inside, right?
Okay.
Or they have a very active mind, which means one thought cut another thought. It's like a machine, virtual machine, like, and in IT language, right?
Right. Yeah.
Having so many thoughts that are running in parallel at the same time, right? So they're
Okay.
seeing something, a thought is occurring. They're seeing something else, a thought is occurring, and then there's no gap between both. So then there are so many thoughts inside, and so then it's first off, it's overload, right?
Right.
Stack overload, and because of that, they have to let out the energy. They're
Right.
human, end of. So they once they have to let out the energy, it is it is required to. You will see this manifest in, they're shaking their feet,
Right.
because they're unable to sit, and or they are given fidgets today. Since there's a lot of focus on mental health, there are fidgets created. There's Jenga. There's a whole lot of tools by which a person kind of tries to manage. There's pen clicking sometimes, right?
Right.
Or yeah, there are multiple things. They will wear bracelets and they are just touching their bracelet. There are various ways. We can't list all of them, but yes, there are a lot of tools where one can intervene.
Yeah, got it. And also, Sharda, when we talk about this depression and ADHD, like, do you think they both interact?
Yes. Inattentive ADHD and depression in my peer group is very common, I would
Mm-hmm.
say.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it is because they are not able to manage their day, right? And so the yesterday's activities to do are remaining today, and then today's activities are also added. So
Right.
then what happens is they feel hopeless. They just look at it and they're like, I have a bigger stack compared to yesterday. So they feel very ineffective and hopeless, and there's a lot of oh, I'm never going to get this done.
Right.
It manifests as a feeling first, and then they start to attack it somehow. Some people plow through and say, no, I'll at least address top three, right? But the way for an ADHD brain, the top three which are important might not be the top three that are important for that day. You understand? They will
Yes.
naturally navigate towards their top three, whatever they are attracted towards,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
then they get into that mode of work or fixation, and then they are like working or they're doing it. But even at home,
Yeah.
they do things which they like. And
Mm-hmm.
so then what happens is, evidently there is work which is remaining, right? Uh, for example, at home, they might have forgotten to make dinner or snack by the time the children have arrived from school. And then they are like, then stumbling. Oh, I need to now think of this. And oh, by the way, I forgot lunch, right? At home. At work, it could be that they are working on two or three things which are not important for their supervisor or for their unit. They like it and they're working on it. You understand? So
Yes.
it's not that productivity is an issue for ADHD. It is that the management of the stack or the list, the task list, is an issue. And so what they sometimes do is, sometimes they take stimulants, right, to improve the mood, because depression naturally occurs when you feel low self-esteem. You're depressed. You're like, I can't do this, right? And then you kind of sit back and say, I think I need to go home earlier today. And so then it keeps cyclically, just layering one day after another. And then it just hits them where they are like, I don't want to climb out of bed today.
Right.
I can't deal this month. So that's how depression happens. And mood enhancers or stimulants are used in some cases to manage. Um, so in many cases, usually it is not a preferred option. The option is to unmask the underlying depression with therapy, right? So then they have talk therapy, they have social community groups, patient community groups where people can share and people can take notes on how someone else is winning at this and how they can probably use this method, and this method works for them. Suddenly it clicks. And and the beautiful thing with this is that once it clicks, that's it. They're on the
Yeah.
track,
Yeah.
and then it slowly starts getting into a positive cycle, which is the best, that
Right.
what else do you so that's how I would put it. But
Mhm.
yes, they do interact. The depression slowly creeps upon you, silent
Yeah.
beast.
Got it. How should we treat comorbid ADHD and depression?
Okay. I think if you use the word comorbid itself, you know that there is one which is manifesting more than the other,
Right.
right? Either they're having attention problems, so ADHD is more, or they're having mood problems, which is like, they are depressed. They are like, they are always getting into a negative cycle, and they're like, but I didn't do this, but I didn't do that. So then you know that they are more depressed, or they're literally crying sometimes, right? So then what happens is you're able to differentiate between the existing psychopathologies, right? If it is an adult or even a young adult, I would say. For children, there are formal ways in which the physician will assess, and the it's there in the description. There are a lot of reads that can be used to understand.
Yeah.
A combination of therapy and medication, in my honest counsel, would be the most effective option for treating coexisting ADHD and depression. I would not just advise stimulants from childhood because it's difficult to pull out of. And there are SNRIs also and NDRIs, which is definitely a physician experience. It's not a self medication. Please do not take it that way. And these are reuptake inhibitors, and they definitely have to go in cohesion with your personal physician. Not a once visit. It's a process. You have to make a relationship with a psychiatrist and go through the method. So in summary, I think ADHD, it frequently co-occurs with anxiety. It co-occurs with depression, and so it complicates the diagnosis. I
Yeah.
talked about depression, but hyperactive ADHD coexists with anxiety. I said, right, a few words about that as well. Hyperactive ADHD is where they want to do so much in a day. So they don't know how to go slow. It's like a car which is always, above the speed limit. And they don't know how to moderate.
Mhm.
So the simplest way I can give a example which will hit everyone is they have too many apps on their phone open, and they're just, swipe, swipe, swipe. Or they have too many tabs open on their browser.
Right.
This
I've
is the
seen
way
many
to
people.
relate. That's how
Yeah.
the brain is, right? The brain is having so many tabs open on the browser. That is how it's operating. And so suddenly they are going at a higher speed, and a person will notice, someone in the family or a very close peer or coworker or a friend will notice that, this needs to be managed, right? And the anxiety starts when they suddenly stop and then take a look and say, oh my God, there's so much. And I have forgotten something which I was supposed to send in the morning, or I was supposed to take care of, like I was using the earlier examples, food, or, important email, or an important activity, visit to the bank or something like that, right? That they would have slipped because they are like, off on another thread. And so the worry starts. When the worry starts, then then you start to get anxious, isn't
Right.
it? These are all feelings. So then you have to learn to ground yourself. You have to learn to slow yourself and say that, no, I have been taught how to go slow. So my own method I want to share again here is where I take a deep breath and then I pull in the feeling,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I'm feeling anxious about something. Then I say, okay, anxiety, I take you in and I recognize you. I take the feeling to my gut and I just sit with it,
Right.
right? And sit silently and breathe. Just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
I close off all devices. I breathe, and slowly my gut will start talking to me, saying that you're okay. You know, I can take care of this, and I'm here, and I'm cogent, and we have done this before,
Yeah.
right? And slowly you will ground. This is how you ground. Or just shut everything and take a walk. Say, I need nature, right?
Yeah.
Take a walk, go put your feet in the pool, or just take a shower, right? A shower is very grounding. Things like this. So there are small ways in which these can be managed, and normal days can run. And normal days, by which I mean like more than 75% of a month or a year or a period of time, right? And you can't win at everything. You're human. So that is my, concluding statement.
Yeah.
Um, be kind to yourself. Uh, be human. It's a beautiful experience being human, and it's not about the performance culture, or it's not about the stigma. It's not about the negative self-talk. Just you know, please acknowledge yourself as a person. Give yourself a hug. You could be really kind to yourself. You could dance. You could talk to the friends that you have. You could have a great time. By the time you come back, you're really good in a very good mood, and you can address your list. Lists are going anywhere, right? And life is not. You are not meant to come here and just keep running. You were meant to experience life.
Super powerful nuggets of wisdom, and thank you once again for joining me today and enlightening our audience on combined ADHD. Thank you once again, Dr. Sharada Rao, and I really appreciate it. Looking forward to the next episode.
Thank you, thank you. There are very useful links for mindfulness questionnaires that I have included in the notes. Please
Yeah,
do take advantage of those. All the citations and all have been extremely useful to me. They'll be useful to you as well. And loads of love hugs to you. Thank you so much.
thank you. So, for those of you who are watching or listening to this episode, you will find all the notes as well as links in the show notes. Request you to refer to them. Friends, that was our third episode, part of TGV Mental Wellness series with Dr. Sharda Rao. And stay tuned for more topics in this series. And before we wind up, we have a quick request. If you have enjoyed this conversation and found it useful, request you to share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who would also like TGV. So spread the knowledge and help others grow just like you. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and also for being part of our awesome TGV family. So we would love to hear from you folks. So do not hesitate to share your ideas, feedback, topic recommendations, and also guest speaker suggestions either through our social media or through email. And our email address is theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com, for as in digit 4 and you as in letter U. And folks, you might have noticed we are not doing two rapid fire rounds and also trivia, just to keep the episode length as minimal as possible and also given the nature of the topic. Hope you understand. And I'm your host, Naveen Samala, a lifelong learner, and my goal is to have impactful conversations that simplify and amplify your life's success. And until next time, take care, stay inspired, and remember the future holds great things because the best is yet to come. Goodbye for now. See you all in the next episode with another amazing guest. Take care.
Take care, all of you. Thank you so much, Naveen.
Thank you.